World War II is often remembered for massive armies clashing across continents, devastating bombings and battles of sheer force. But the history of the war isn't just about numbers, tanks and artillery. Some of the most remarkable victories came not from overwhelming strength, but from brains, boldness and ingenuity. Smaller forces, underestimated by their enemies, repeatedly found ways to outthink, outmaneuver and outlast stronger opponents. From daring nighttime raids on heavily armed fleets to cracking supposedly unbreakable codes, these underdog moments changed the course of campaigns and in some cases the war itself. Intelligence, clever deception, and technical innovation proved that strategy could outweigh brute power. In this video, we'll journey through 8 extraordinary instances where cunning, creativity, and calculated risk allowed weaker forces to triumph against the odds. You'll read about audacious air attacks, ingenious code-breaking, clever deception operations, and the resourcefulness of prisoners of war. Each story demonstrates a unique aspect of human ingenuity, proving that in war the mind can be just as powerful as the muscle. Prepare to be amazed at how intelligence and daring not only leveled the battlefield but, in some cases, completely turned it upside down. These 8 moments aren't just tales of military history, they're timeless lessons in how clever thinking can defeat raw power. In November 1940, the British Royal Navy pulled off a daring strike that would forever change naval warfare. Using just 20 aging Fairey Swordfish biplanes, planes considered obsolete even at the time, British pilots launched a nighttime air raid on the Italian fleet anchored in Taranto harbour. The Italians, confident in their battleships and harbour defences, didn't anticipate that these slow, seemingly outdated aircraft could pose a threat. The British pilots flew low over the water, evading searchlights and anti-aircraft fire, and released torpedoes with astonishing precision. By morning, 3 Italian battleships were badly damaged, effectively neutralising a significant portion of Italy's naval power. This audacious operation proved that aircraft carriers could dominate even the most powerful battleships, shifting naval strategy worldwide. The success at Taranto didn't just cripple a superior force, it foreshadowed the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor and demonstrated the immense potential of clever planning, timing and ingenuity over brute strength. The Battle of Taranto is a classic example of brains beating brawn. 20 weak planes outsmarted a heavily armed fleet, achieving a decisive victory that seemed impossible. It's a stark reminder that in war, audacity and intelligence can level any playing field. In the spring of 1940, Norway became a battleground in a struggle that seemed hopelessly one-sided. German forces, equipped with superior numbers and modern weaponry, aimed to seize the port of Narvik to secure vital iron ore shipments. But the Norwegian defenders, aided by a small contingent of British forces, refused to be intimidated. The key to their success: mastery of the terrain. The fjords surrounding Narvik offered natural choke points and hiding spots that neutralised the Germans' numerical advantage. Norwegian ski troops, familiar with the harsh landscape, and British naval forces coordinated ambushes that caught the Germans off guard. Despite being outgunned, the defenders inflicted significant damage on the invading forces, sinking ships and delaying the German advance. While strategic considerations eventually forced the Allies to retreat, the battle showcased the power of local knowledge, adaptability, and clever tactics. The Battle of Narvik illustrates a fundamental truth of warfare. Superior technology and numbers can be countered by creativity, preparation, and terrain mastery. In this case, a smaller, determined force turned natural geography into a powerful ally, proving that brains, and not just brawn, can tip the scales in combat. During World War II, Germany relied on the Enigma machine to encode its military communications, believing its cipher to be unbreakable. The machine's complex rotors and daily changing settings created a staggering number of possible combinations, giving German commanders confidence that their messages were safe from prying eyes. But in a hidden corner of England at Bletchley Park, a small team of brilliant codebreakers, led by Alan Turing and other mathematicians, was quietly defying this confidence. Using a combination of mathematics, logic, and electromechanical machines called bombs, the team painstakingly deciphered German messages day after day. The intelligence they produced, famously known as Ultra, provided critical insights into German troop movements, U-boat positions, and planned attacks. This information proved decisive in numerous operations, From safeguarding Atlantic convoys to coordinating Allied offensives across Europe, the Enigma breakthrough demonstrates that intellectual ingenuity can rival, and even surpass, physical force. By breaking a code thought impossible to crack, a relatively small group of minds effectively turned the tables on one of the world's most formidable military powers. Here, victory wasn't about tanks or bombs, it was about brains, persistence, and innovation. In late 1941, German forces advanced deep into the Soviet Union, aiming to capture Moscow and end the war on the Eastern Front swiftly. They were confident, well-equipped, and seemingly unstoppable. Yet, despite being outmatched in terms of firepower and momentum, the Soviets found an unexpected ally: the brutal Russian winter. As temperatures plunged well below freezing, German troops, unprepared for the severe cold, struggled with frostbite, mechanical failures, and supply shortages. The Soviets, however, had adapted to the harsh environment. They employed scorched earth tactics, retreating while destroying infrastructure and resources to deny the enemy sustenance. Meanwhile, reinforcements poured into Moscow, allowing the Red Army to regroup and counterattack at the precise moment when German forces were most vulnerable. The combination of tactical patience, strategic use of environmental conditions, and sheer resilience turned the tide. The German advance stalled, and the Soviet counteroffensive pushed the invaders back, marking the first major setback for Hitler's army in the war. The defense of Moscow shows that outsmarting a superior foe isn't always about clever gadgets or daring raids. It can also mean using the natural world, timing, and endurance as strategic weapons. Here, brains, planning, and local advantage proved as deadly as any tank or artillery shell. In the scorching deserts of North Africa, British General Bernard Montgomery faced one of Germany's most brilliant commanders, Erwin the Desert Fox Rommel. Rommel's Africa Corps had won multiple victories, and the odds seemed stacked against the Allied forces. Yet Montgomery had a plan that relied not on sheer force, but on cunning and misdirection. The British employed deceptive tactics on a massive scale. Dummy tanks, false radio transmissions, and fake troop movements misled the Germans about the location and strength of Allied forces. Meanwhile, Montgomery concentrated his real strength at the decisive points, ready to strike where Rommel least expected. When the battle commenced at El Alamein, the carefully orchestrated deception allowed the British to break through German defences. The victory halted Rommel's advance into Egypt and marked a turning point in the North African campaign. El Alamein is a striking example of how clever strategy can overcome numerical or technological disadvantages. By misdirecting a superior foe and exploiting their assumptions, Montgomery and his desert rats achieved a decisive triumph, proving once again that brains can prevail where brawn alone would fail. In the midst of World War II, the Allies needed to convince Germany that their next invasion would target Greece, not Sicily. Enter Operation Mincemeat, one of the most audacious deception plans in military history. The British created a convincing ruse using a dead body, carefully dressed as a fictitious Royal Marine officer, carrying secret invasion plans. The corpse was released off the coast of Spain, where German intelligence was likely to find it. The Germans, believing the documents to be genuine, shifted troops and defences to Greece, leaving Sicily comparatively lightly guarded. When the Allies launched the actual invasion, they faced far less resistance than anticipated, achieving a critical strategic advantage. Operation Mincemeat shows that ingenuity and creativity can turn psychological warfare into a powerful tool. By thinking outside conventional military tactics, a small, clever team manipulated a far superior force without firing a single shot. This operation proves that sometimes outsmarting the enemy is more effective than outgunning them. In May 1943, the Allies faced a daunting challenge. Germany's industrial heartland, the Ruhr Valley, was powering the Nazi war machine. Conventional bombing had limited effect, so the Royal Air Force devised a daring and technically revolutionary mission known as the Dambusters Raid. RAF 617 Squadron, led by Wing Commander Guy Gibson, employed specially designed bouncing bombs to skip across the surface of German dams and explode against their walls. Flying at low altitudes under the cover of night, crews had to navigate precisely, avoid searchlights, and release the bombs at exact distances and speeds. The operation demanded flawless coordination, nerves of steel, and inventive problem-solving. The result? 2 major dams were breached, flooding factories and disrupting German industry. While costly in terms of lives, the raid showcased the power of innovation, audacity, and meticulous planning. Here, technology was crucial, but so too was the creativity and courage of a relatively small team against formidable defences. The Dambusters raid proves that superior resources and firepower can be neutralised when ingenuity, precision and boldness take the lead, demonstrating once again that cleverness can level any battlefield. In the heart of Germany, at Stalag Luft III, Allied prisoners of war were held under tight security. Despite the strict conditions, they hatched an audacious plan that would go down in history as the Great Escape. Using ingenuity, patience and careful coordination, prisoners dug 3 tunnels, nicknamed Tom, Dick and Harry, right under the watchful eyes of their captors. Tools were improvised from scrap materials, soil was discreetly disposed of in ingenious ways, and detailed forgeries of documents were prepared. The plan involved meticulous timing and coordination, aiming to allow as many prisoners as possible to slip into freedom under the cover of darkness. Although most escapees were eventually recaptured and some executed, the operation demonstrated remarkable cleverness and resilience. It served as a profound act of resistance, boosting morale for POWs and inspiring generations with the idea that creativity, determination, and teamwork can challenge even the most formidable constraints. Throughout World War II, these 8 remarkable examples demonstrate a recurring truth. Victory does not always belong to the strongest, fastest, or most heavily armed. From daring air raids like Taranto and the Dambusters, to psychological operations such as Operation Mincemeat, and feats of sheer human ingenuity like the Great Escape, the war repeatedly showed that brains and creativity can match, or even surpass, brawn. Whether it was cracking the Enigma code, using harsh weather as a strategic ally in Moscow, or deceiving legendary commanders at El Alamein, smaller forces consistently outmaneuvered superior foes through clever planning, innovative thinking, and precise execution. These stories remind us that intelligence, adaptability, and audacity are often as decisive in warfare as tanks, guns, or planes. By studying these extraordinary events, we gain a deeper understanding of how warfare is not solely a contest of numbers or firepower. It is also a battle of wits, strategy, and courage. The lessons of these 8 moments resonate far beyond World War II, proving that even against overwhelming odds, ingenuity can change the course of history.